Aristotle, born in 384 BC and died in 322 BC, is the master of ancient Greek philosophy, universally recognized as history's first encyclopedic thinker. Later generations called him the most learned man. As an encyclopedic scientist, he contributed to almost every discipline. Aristotle was born in the city of Stagira in Thrace on the northern shore of the Aegean Sea. His life experience can be divided into 4 periods, mainly spent in Macedonia and Athens. The period from 384 BC to 368 BC was a period of growth and enlightenment, because his father served as the royal physician to King Amyntas II of Macedonia. Therefore, he spent his youth in the palace and received a good early education. The period from 367 BC to 348 BC was a period of study and research. In 367 BC, the 17-year-old Aristotle left Macedonia to study in Athens and entered the famous Plato Academy. At this time, Plato was already 60 years old and was in a period of reflection on the theory of ideas. The period from 348 BC to 335 BC was the period of traveling and serving as a teacher. After Plato's death, Aristotle left Athens for various reasons, returned to Macedonia, then went to Asia Minor for study tours and wrote books. He was later hired to return to the Macedonian court and serve as a teacher to the 13-year-old Prince Alexander. The period from 335 BC to 323 BC was the period of running schools and writing. 1 year after Alexander succeeded to the throne, Aristotle left Macedonia to start a school in Athens, located in Lyceum in the northeast suburb of the city. The academy was later called Lyceum Academy, because he was used to discussing problems with his students while walking. People also call the school he founded the strolling school. His teacher Plato and Plato's teacher Socrates were known as the 3 sages of Greece. Let us feel it together. The ultimate value of life lies in the ability to wake up and think, not just in survival. What we do repeatedly every day makes us who we are. And then you will find that excellence is not an act but a habit. Indulging one's own desires is the greatest disaster. Talking about other people's privacy is the greatest sin. And not knowing one's own faults is the greatest illness. A person without a crazy personality will never have a huge genius. Humility to superiors is a duty. Humility to peers is kindness. Humility to subordinates is nobility. And humility to everyone is safety. Happiness is placing the soul in the most appropriate position. Only those who overcome fear can achieve true freedom. Time crushes all things. Everything ages due to the power of time and is forgotten in the passage of time. I think he who conquers his desires is braver than he who conquers his enemies. Education is an ornament for the rich and a refuge for the poor. The purpose of work is to obtain leisure. He is a friend to everyone, but in reality, he is not a friend to anyone. There are 7 causes that determine all human actions: chance, nature, compulsion, habit, reason, passion, and desire. Birds with the same feathers will naturally flock together. The so-called equality means that the poor do not take advantage of the rich. The root of education is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. Wisdom exists not only in knowledge but also in the ability to use knowledge. A person who indulges in pleasure without restraint will become a dissolute person. A person who avoids all happiness, like a countryman, will become a callous person. A barking dog is more useful than a sleeping lion. The goal of a wise man is not to pursue happiness, but to avoid misfortune as much as possible. Bad people obey out of fear, good people obey out of love. We cannot influence others through intelligence, but emotions can do this. What kind of person you will become depends on what you do repeatedly. Man, at his best, is the best among animals, but when he is separated from law and justice, he becomes the worst among animals. Even God cannot change the past. The accuracy of language is the basis of good style. Exercising too much and too little will damage physical strength in the same way. Eating too much and eating too little will damage health in the same way. Only moderation can produce, enhance, and maintain physical strength and health. If we are friends, we won't put the scale in the middle. What we do day in and day out determines who we are. Therefore, excellence does not refer to behavior, but to habits. True friends are like different bodies with the same heart. Goodwill is a prerequisite for friendship, but the two cannot be confused. The so-called slave is a person whose desire overcomes reason. Serious people imitate the actions of noble people, and frivolous people imitate the actions of despicable people. Bravery is the middle ground between confidence and fear. Law is order, and only with good laws can there be good order. Bad habits are formed unconsciously. In misfortune, useful friends are more necessary. In fortune, noble friends are more necessary. In misfortune, look for friends out of necessity. In luck, look for friends out of nobility. Life is full of opportunities and changes. When people are most proud, the greatest misfortune comes. What rational people pursue is not happiness, but just the absence of pain. There are many kinds of fallacies, but there is only one right. This is why it is easy to fail, but hard to succeed, and it is easy to miss the target, but hard to hit the target. To give power to men is to invite the wolf into the house, for desire is of an animal nature, and even the best, once they have great power, are always apt to be corrupted by the passion of desire. The poet's job is not to describe what has happened, but to describe what might happen. Only by overcoming your fears can you gain true freedom. The key to opening the door to all science is undoubtedly the question mark. If we do a job over and over again, the job will become who we are. At that time, excellence is not an action, but a habit. Anyone can get angry. It's simple, but choosing the right person, to the right degree at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way is not simple. Emotions refer to lust, anger, fear, self-confidence, jealousy, joy, friendship, hatred, desire, competitiveness, compassion, and various emotions that generally accompany pain or happiness. Beauty is a natural advantage. The rule of law is better than the rule of any one person. The so-called rule of law should contain two meanings. Established laws are universally obeyed, and everyone's obedience to the laws is itself a well-formulated law. Pity is caused by a person's misfortune, and fear is caused by the similarity of the person who suffered the misfortune to us. Leisure is certainly a blessing. Virtue can be divided into two types. One is the virtue of wisdom, and the other is the virtue of behavior. The former is obtained from learning, and the latter is obtained from practice. A magnanimous person can respond appropriately to the fate he encounters, whether good or evil. Don't be happy with success. Don't be sad with failure. Don't mind the praise or criticism from the outside world. Just do what you should do and what you can do. Laws reason without passion. Anyone who is good at thinking must be someone who can pursue what is most beneficial to mankind through action based on his thinking. A swallow cannot bring spring, and a sunny day cannot bring life. There is only one way for people to do good, but there are many ways for people to do evil. For young people, friends are counselors who remind them not to make mistakes. For old people, friends are assistants who replenish their failing physical strength and take care of their difficulties in life. For adults, friends are assistants who assist them in completing their magnificent undertakings. He who loves the truth when there is no danger, and loves the truth even more when there is danger. It is through the activity of thought that reason achieves its highest good. There are three kinds of knowledge that human beings need: theory, practicality, and identification. The desire for money is like a greedy beast. You never know how much precious youth is buried under its feet. When the youth is exhausted, you may be left with nothing but loneliness and a hateful appearance. Every area of nature is wonderful. Work unintentionally satisfies people's need to stay away from the increasingly chaotic life. Love is two bodies and one soul. Practical intellectual truth must be consistent with right desires. We become just by exercising justice, gentle by acting temperately, and brave by courageous action. If you want to be happy, you have to be self-sufficient. Losing your temper is praiseworthy if you do it in the right place, with the right person, at the right time, in the right way, and for just reasons. If evil becomes completely intolerable, it will also destroy itself. Justice is not a part of virtue, but the whole virtue. Conversely, injustice is not a part of evil, but the whole evil. When man reaches the perfection of virtue, he is the most excellent of all animals. Without law and justice, he becomes the worst of all beasts. If you really want to relieve a country's internal worries, you should rely on good legislation and not rely on random opportunities. The most noble is justice, the best is health, and the happiest is contentment. The criterion for distinguishing knowledge from non-knowledge is whether it can be taught. The former can be taught, but the latter cannot. Evil events arise from evil. All genius minds are bound to madness. Those lofty and outstanding words are absolutely impossible to speak from the mouths of mediocre people, except for those excited and restless souls. Life is about surprises and changes. Of all the senses, we think vision is the most useful, as it allows us to see many differences between things. Wisdom arises from universal knowledge, not from individual knowledge. Politics does not create human beings, but it separates them from nature and controls them. Beauty speaks louder than a letter of introduction. Education is the best guarantee for old age. In education, practice must precede theory, and physical training must precede intellectual training. By always doing things in a certain way, people develop habits. Fear is the pain that arises when evil thoughts arise in the mind. The violence of the mind can take lives without bloodshed. Poverty is the mother of revolution and sin. Making friends is easy, but friendship itself is a slow, ripening fruit. The best way to avoid jealousy is to live up to your name. A slight deviation from the truth at first will lead to a huge deviation in the end. Young people want to show their superiority between honor and money. They prefer the former because they have not yet felt the need for money. Human beings are essentially language beings. A jealous person not only has to bear his own failures and setbacks, but also bears the success of others. So he always shows his frustration to others.